There's a gold mine hiding right up there, and we're gonna go find it.
Hey guys, my name is Jason, and on today's video, we're going to explore the underground workings of the old Silvertip Gold Mine in the Mount Baker Mining District. We're going to do some mining, we're going to take some samples, we're going to find some amazing rocks and minerals, we'll check out some big trees, we'll find the old mill site, look at some old rusty metal, and some amazing views. So strap in and enjoy the ride.
Well, our first stop today is going to be finding the mill. And back in the day, in the 40s and 50s, they had a mill down here that consisted of a jaw crusher, a ball mill, some flotation cells, a rate classifier, and some Wilfley tables. There was a building here, there was an aerial tram down to the mill. So that was what, 75 years ago? And now you wouldn't know. There was a building here, there was infrastructure, and now it's just all trees. But I see some stuff here behind me that I want to show you. We're starting to find some stuff that indicates we're getting close. Old rusty metal is always a good indication. There's a barrel, there's some old junk over there. But I'm hoping somewhere in here I can find remnants of some equipment. A ball mill would be cool, a jaw crusher, an old shaker table, something like that. But I love finding old equipment in the woods. Here's some old pipe. That's a good sign. We're right on the edge of the avalanche chute. But what they would do is they would typically put their mill buildings kind of right next to these old avalanche chutes. The reason they did that is because they could get the aerial tram down to the mill without cutting down a bunch of trees. They had a fairly straight shot. But what would happen is if you had a pretty big avalanche, it would come in, wipe out all the trees, and wipe out the mill. And I think that's exactly what happened here. I believe I'm standing right where the old mill building was. Right in here. Looks like maybe an old part of the foundation. Some big bolts sticking up. There's something over here, a big piece of metal. Here's some buckets. There's some old pipe laying down in there. So this is where it happened. This is where they brought their stuff from the mine. What do we have here? Here's a concrete foundation thing there. What do we have here? Oh, this is the old rake classifier. And this is kind of a similar thing to our spiral classifiers. But what these machines would do is after it was crushed, it would go into the bottom of this rate classifier with a bunch of water, and they would overflow probably here out the back. And so anything that would overflow here out the back was fine enough to go onto the tables and the float cells. Anything that sank down in this trough would get to the bottom, and then this is just a bunch of pieces of angle, all in a big long line running up this trough. And what this rate classifier would do is, here's one attachment, there's probably another attachment up there. So it would drop the angle down on the bottom of the trough, it'd pull it up out of 6 inches or something, and then it'd lift it up and go back and drop it, and it would just rake from this one to this one to this one to this one to this one all the way up. And if the larger particles could make it all the way up out the top, they would go back to regrind, and anything else that would flow down and eventually out the back would go into the flotation and the concentration. So this is a pretty cool, fairly complicated piece of machinery to have drug all the way out here into the woods. What do we have up here? Yeah, see, it's all grown into a tree now. But there's the shaft. It looks like that shaft went through those eyes there, and it goes down and connects to that rake system. And so somebody worked really, really hard, spent a lot of money, spent a lot of time getting this thing up here. So I'm standing at the old mill, but I expect that the other stuff, the jaw crusher, the ball mill, the flotation cells, those are probably scavenged, either taken to another mine site or they may have been cut up for scrap. But I don't see any evidence of them here right now. But this is for sure where the old mill was. So right in here, here's that rate classifier. That's where the mill building was. I've walked out, I don't know, 25 feet away out here into the avalanche chute. And this is where, let's see if I can get a view looking up. Not really, but up there to the north is a big cut. That's where the gold mine is. And in the winter, huge piles of snow get up in the head of that valley, and then sometimes they come down through this avalanche chute, and that's why there's no trees there in front of us. There's trees on the right, but oftentimes every 100 years or so you'll get a huge avalanche that'll come down, and it wiped out all these trees and wiped out the mill building, and that was it. Oh look, here's another foundation here. So they actually built it out into the avalanche chute some. That wasn't very smart. Another thing to keep in mind when you're exploring these old mill buildings and stuff is if you find it and you find some equipment, I always look downhill because everything goes down, nothing goes back up. Here's some old rafters here, it looks like. This might have been the roof at one point. There's some old stuff laying over there, some old troughs. Let's go take a look over here. Here's some roofing and nails. So this was part of the mill building. Old tin. Some sort of old distributor trough system here. Look at that. What do we have here? Gutter maybe? Something to feed the tables? Maybe an old set of lights. Heck, this is an old light. Wire. Another set of lights, I guess. Must have had electricity or generators up here at one point. Man, this is a real deal. This is a heck of a lot of work to get all this stuff up here. Come down below the mill building a little bit. Here's some more tin. Looks like a shroud off maybe a generator or something. Old, I don't know, old piece of a car or something. Maybe a generator shroud, something like that. The old clips to hold down the... But I mean, you could spend half a day here just looking around for old rusty metal, trying to piece together what these guys did. But I'm not so into rusty metal, I'm into gold. So let's head up the hill, see if we can find this gold mine. Well, if you're a miner, you gotta have these around, it seems like. Old bottle. Pretty good shape. It just really makes me in awe, I guess, of these old timers and what they would do. I mean, I can't imagine getting a 15-ton ball mill up here today, and there's a road within 100 feet of the mill. But 75 years ago, imagine what the road was like. Imagine what the trucks they had. How would you get it off once it's up here? The jaw crusher, it must have weighed tons. Generators, buildings, all this stuff they had to do. It's just unbelievable to me, the tenacity they had versus us today. I mean, we could rent a forklift or a crane, have it up here. We could build a building. We could do all this stuff. And yet, nobody in the States is really mining. I don't know, maybe we've gotten soft. Maybe we're just not into metals anymore. Maybe mining's just not that important. Boy, the US, we had a lot of small mines. And I don't know where they went. It's incredibly difficult to capture the monumental size of the trees that we have here in Western Washington. But here's a cedar tree behind me. My arm span is over 6 feet, and it doesn't even come close to the diameter of this tree on the butt. This is probably a 10 or 12 foot diameter tree. They can grow up to 250 or 300 feet high. This tree may have been here since 1000 AD, or maybe longer. Here's a look up the tree. You can't even come close to seeing the top. For those of you interested, I have another YouTube channel called S&J Forest Products. I've cut a lot of cedar. I've milled up a lot of cedar. It makes great saunas, great fences, great decks. You can get $3, $4, $5 a board foot for cedar. This tree, depending on how tall it is, it may be worth $20,000 or $30,000. Here's that big cedar tree we were looking at earlier. I just did the log scale calculation, so I determined the volume of wood. If that butt log is 33 feet long and 10 feet diameter at the top, there's 27,000 board feet in that one butt log. And at $3 a board foot, that's almost $60,000 for one log. So when I said that tree might be worth $30,000, that tree might be worth $100,000. But the next log up might be 6, 8 feet at the top. So there's got to be another 15 or 20,000 board feet in that log. It's unbelievable the amount of wood in these trees and the value that they hold. $100,000 growing there in the forest. I'm hearing some knocking. At first I thought it was a woodpecker, but I have never heard a woodpecker knock this loud. It's up the hill from me a little ways. Just bang, 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 bang on the trees. I just heard it one time and I didn't have the camera going, but I don't know what that was. I know all the woodpeckers. The biggest one we have here is a pileated woodpecker. I've seen them, I've heard them. Spooky. We're moving from the timber off into the more open avalanche chutes. I'm going to try and make it up to this chunk of trees here because it keeps the brush down. But I wanted to show you these. This is Western Washington's cactus. This is called Devil's Club. And it's covered in spines. And they have the same thing like a cactus. They're barbed on the end. So if they get in you, you have these little blisters. And they take forever to go away because that little barb breaks off under your skin. And your body does not like it. So you try and stay out of the Devil's Club. But sometimes you just got to walk right through and be careful. So this is what the avalanche chutes look like. Just covered in this brush. It grows under the snow, so when the avalanches come over, it doesn't take out any of this brush stuff. And then when it opens up and thaws out in the spring, you get this huge brushy, it's really hard to walk through. Luckily for me, it hasn't leafed out yet, but it's still quite thick and hard to walk through. So you really want to stay out of these avalanche chutes if you can. Doug fir trees, 200 feet tall, 8 foot at the base. Cedar trees, looking up the hill behind me. Huge Dougs, huge cedars. I'm in a grove of trees right now that's probably worth $1 million. And it's 1/4 of an acre. Beautiful stuff. Look at these cedars over here. Beautiful cedars. Clear wood. That's prime shake wood. Clear. Oh, I just can't get over it. I'm a tree guy. What can I say? My kids tease me about being a tree guy, but when you get in a stand like this, it's hard not to be. Well, I want to talk a little bit about geology now. And Western Washington is a little bit unique in that there have been some pretty big gold discoveries. Big is the wrong word. Rich gold discoveries. But it's really, really hard to prospect. Why is that? Just look behind me. There's no rocks. It's all duff. Boulders that have fallen off the hill sitting on top. But there's no outcrop. There's nowhere to get a look at what's underneath the surface. And that's a real problem if you're trying to find gold. because I come through here, I don't know what's under my feet, and it may be 10 feet down. So it's very, very difficult to prospect here. And most of the prospecting and most of the mines in the district are way up high, way above the tree line where you can actually see the rocks. The problem with that is they're covered in snow for 9 or 10 months of the year, and so you can't get to them. And so I think there's some amazingly rich and possibly incredibly large gold deposits yet to be discovered in Western Washington, just because we can't find them. You can't prospect this. Even the creeks, all the creeks have been glaciated in the last 10 or 15,000 years. All the placer's been wiped out of them. So it's really, really difficult to find gold in Western Washington. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. There's no flat spot around. It's really pretty steep. There's no trails. And look what I found. An old piece of tin. Like an old piece of tin roofing. Where did that come from? I mean, I'm up underneath some rock cliffs in the trees. Somebody must have built something up higher and it came down the hill. So we're on the right track. Well, here's a discovery. So just down the hill from me, there was some tin just below this yew tree. There's some more tin right there. And I came up over this little rise. There's some tin. Here's a hinge. See that? Some old timbers. I think there's a collapsed portal here. I'll zoom out so you can see what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah, there's something soft under my foot there. So I think someone had a little prospect right down in here, and it's since collapsed. But there's no record of this on any map. There's no talk about any prospect over on this side of the creek or the fault. So this is pretty cool. There's probably hundreds or thousands of these spread out all over the Mount Baker mining district. And they're not recorded. Who knows what they found? It probably wasn't very good since there's not a really huge dump pile there. But someone saw something around here that they thought was good enough to bring all of their stuff up, a bunch of junk and steel and tin, and build a portal and see if they could find some gold. So it's really cool for me to come out and find these things. This whole process for me, in part, is about recording the history of the Mount Baker mining district. A lot of people will never find it. They don't know where it is. There's some discussions about it in old books. But getting out here, getting it on camera so everybody can see, it's pretty cool. I'm gonna walk down this skinny little cedar. Okay, be on the lookout for any rusty metal. I'm over on the east side of the fault where the mine's located. And the rock type over here is Darrington phyllite. This is what Darrington phyllite looks like. It's metamorphosed seafloor sediments that have been accreted up on to the North American plate. And when those sediments got accreted, they metamorphosed into kind of like a schist. Phyllite is kind of the term, but there's this what's called sweat quartz, and during that metamorphic process there's bands of quartz in these phyllite boulders and in the bedrock. This is a big piece of float here. My theory on this is that the seafloor sediments have very, very finely disseminated gold, and the phyllite is the same host rock as my mine that I mine gold in. It's the same host rock as some of the other rich mines in the district. And the common factor is all these mines, gotta get away from these mosquitoes. All these mines have phyllite close and an intrusive igneous rock. So granite, a felsic intrusive igneous rock. And it's really common in gold-bearing districts to have these intrusive granite plutons come up. They bring with them a bunch of water, super, super hot water. It circulates through the rocks around them. It can dissolve some of these metals, gold, lead, zinc, copper, silver. Gets all this stuff dissolved in these super hot fluids. And then as those fluids find a crack or a little weak spot, they will inject themselves into that weak spot, forming gold veins, base metal veins, that kind of stuff. So my theory, and I'm gonna talk about this on another video here in the future about prospecting new gold deposits in Western Washington and the Mount Baker Mining District in particular. You're going to be looking for the phyllite or these metasedimentary rocks and an intrusive body very, very close. And you're going to walk along that contact looking for your gold-rich quartz veins. I hope you guys enjoy this because I feel a little bit ridiculous walking around in the woods talking to myself, talking about trees and rocks and gold. But leave me a comment down below if you like this, you want to see more of this, because I enjoy doing it. And I enjoy the views. Here's another indication we're on the right track. Wire. I don't know if that's like an old telephone line or what, but it's running right up through those trees. I am sitting right on a fault. The valley up behind me is the trace of the fault. It goes all the way up and over the mountain, and it goes all the way behind me and up over the next mountain. This fault contains the structure that the fluids were placed in that carry the valuable metals, the gold, silver, copper, lead, and zinc. On this side, the east side, it's Darrington phyllite. On this side, it's more metasedimentary, more calcite and carbonates. And right where this fault meets and the two move against each other, that's the conduit where these fluids could come up and emplace the ore. Over on the west side is where most of the mineralization occurs. There's nothing that's been discovered on the east side. The gold mine, the adits, punch into the west side of this fault and cross-cut several shear zones that hold the metals. So that fault runs all the way up behind me. I'll turn the camera around so you can see. Goes down the avalanche chute. The mill is back over in these trees back in here, but it goes all the way down across the road, across the creek, and straight back up the other side, right up that gouge in the side of the mountain and right over the top of the mountain. So this is a big structure, a big conduit for fluids, and it's no accident that the miners found some pretty good gold deposits up right near this fault. Now, as I've been walking up this talus in the fault, I've been looking for float, and every rock, every single piece I see coming off the east side of this drainage here is all Darrington phyllite. There's no marble-ish, calcite-y, nothing. Whereas just right over there, that's a different rock type, and the fault separates the two. The old literature said, a barely discernible trail will lead you up to the cabin in the mine. And that was written way back in 1966, in the olden days. So I think I'm onto something here. There's what I'm following, barely discernible. I'm standing on a switchback. It goes up there and then across the top above that big rock in between that huge fir and that boulder. So let's hope I'm on the barely discernible path and I end up at an old cabin site. Well, hot dog, my tracking skills aren't too bad. There's that big old fir. The trail came right around here onto this flat spot. And there's rusty metal. There's old cans. Hey, look at this. They don't make them like that anymore. Pepsi. What else we got? We got an old fan over here. An old jar. I don't know if I want to open that. I think this is blackberry jam. And you can still see the blackberries in it. See that? I don't think I'm going to open it. But somebody left their blackberry jam up here and I found it. But this flat spot here behind me is where the cabin was, or some structure. Man, they did a lot of work to take this out of the hillside, because it goes way up on this side and it goes way down on that side, down into the creek. We're back into the creek. We're very, very close. I can actually see a piece of rail right behind me sticking out of the bank there. But I've got a couple pieces of float I want to break open, see if I can see some mineralization. So here's one of the pieces that caught my eye. The old saying, the redder the better. I'm gonna break this guy open, see what we can find. Here's a fresh break. Sulfides, a lot of shinies in there, more sulfides down here. And notice it's not in the phyllite. This is in more of that calcite, metasedimentary rock that in this situation holds the goodies. Here's a rock we've seen before. I did some videos on this last year. This is that green listwanite is what it's called. I've been doing a little more research. I think this might be garnerite would be another term for it. It's a nickel ore. And it's very interesting that we're finding it here because it's similar in what I find in some of the other creeks around. It's a very, very pretty rock. Well, not terribly exciting. Looks like it's mostly phyllite on the inside, and we just had a few slabs of it on the surface. But it's a very pretty green-blue color. Look at that, big old inline 6. Some of you out there may be able to identify that thing. Based on the history of the mine, it's probably 40s vintage. Looks like it's on some sort of skid there. And they drug it all the way up here, and that's where it lives. Huh. There's some rail coming out of the hill. There's some more, so the mine's just up there. Here's the cable for the aerial tram. And there's the portal. There it is, the Silvertip. And not too bad of a view. We're just inside the Silvertip portal. On my left over here is a huge air compressor. There's an old air tank out front. Behind me there's several hundred feet of workings. They cross-cut several different shear zones. So I'm excited to get back there and look. Their primary minerals were gold, silver, copper, lead, and zinc. Here's maybe a little bit better look at that engine and compressor. I have absolutely no idea how they got this up here and in this portal. It's a beast of a machine. Fuel tank there on front. They had a little covered hutch for it. Did a little timber work here. And then there's down into the workings. A little bit of water we'll hop through, I think. Let's see if we can get through here without getting totally sloppy wet. It looks like it maybe shallows up there a little bit. Once we get in here. We're on semi-dry ground here. So this is actually quite interesting. Out by the portal, I didn't show you, but it was more of that marbly stuff, and this is a little lens of phyllite. So we're in that kind of shear zone going on here. We might go through a couple different types of rocks. Someone's been in here sampling, or at least flagging. The old timbers, or sleepers, I guess, on the floor. I'm 6 foot. I got to bend over a little bit, but not too much. Here's a little slip, it looks like. Maybe some mineralization right in there. So that looks pretty good. It looks like we may be still in the phyllite, but there's a series of these cross-cut shear zones. That one goes up there quite a ways, 5-6 feet. There's a couple down here that were pretty highly mineralized. There's a little raise. Here is a slip that they drifted on, both north and south. That, I believe, is the structure they were following. Some good looking mineralization there. So we're going to check that out as well. I want to just punch all the way back here though and see what we see. There's a rat's nest. Here's some cool old stuff. Let's see what this is. That looks like a little slusher bucket. Whoa. There's an air tank. Track they bent around. That's a big tank. Here again, we hit a little seam. Mineralized, gougey looking stuff. That looks like a slusher bucket to me. Some old panels. It looks like this was probably abandoned and they came back and worked on that raise after the fact. Air hose. I thought I heard something rustling back here, so I'm a little bit timid, but I don't see anything. Another crosscut. I don't see much in the way of mineralization on this one. CCNO44? Not sure. Some old Budweiser cans. What year are those from? Here's a nice little nest for something. That's fresh. Probably what I heard rustling around down here. And then they were piling their waste back here, it looks like. They've filled this halfway full with junk. Some old pipe. So this is something they were not planning on continuing, it looks like. And maybe that's why they quit, is because they've cross-cut 3 or 4 different shear zones, and they've gone all the way out of the fault and they weren't finding any more mineralization. So let's go back and see about what we can find on those mineralized spots in the shear zones. The Silvertip vein was discovered by H.C. Wells in 1896 and was one of the first discoveries of the district. The principal metals of the vein proved to be gold, silver, and copper. In 1938, The Silvertip Mining Company was formed by Ray Block of Seattle. A small flotation mill was constructed on the property in 1945, and shipments of concentrates and ore were made to the Tacoma smelter. In the winter of 1949-1950, a snowslide destroyed the mill. The ore minerals appear to be confined to a north 45-degree west trending shear zone in pre-Jurassic phyllite and silicious schistose marble, and contain veinlets of calcite as well as stringers of quartz. In most parts of the shear zones, metallic minerals are sparse and consist of disseminated pyrite, pyrrhotite, and arsenopyrite. However, some parts of the shear zones contain ore shoots. These ore shoots appear to be lenticular replacement bodies in silicious marble. In some ore shoots, sphalerite, chalcopyrite, and galena occur as well-defined bands with little, if any, gangue. Assays of representative material from these ore shoots, as well as float, showed the following values: gold 0.11 to 0.42 ounces per ton, silver 1.6 to 49 ounces per ton, copper 0.49 to 6.41%, and lead 0.05%. The longest adit is 240 feet long, and it crosscuts 4 shear zones that have been drifted on for a combined length of 180 feet. Near the first crosscut, which is about 100 feet from the portal, a 30-foot incline raise leads to a small stope. Currently, the southern adit is completely caved, and I can only explore the northern adit, shown at the upper section of this map. We're going to go up that little raise on the first shear zone that we intersect and see if we can find some ore minerals and some samples to take back. Here's a quick look at all the Silvertip claims. This is the last seam, the farthest seam to the west or into the workings. And it's actually pretty cool. You can see exactly where the fault is. These two, I don't know if it's a fault, the seam, the slip. And you can pull this rock out and you can see on it slicken sides from the rocks moving together, but it's right there. I mean, I can put my finger on it. It's right there. All this other stuff is real soft and gougy. I can, it's kind of clay-like, very common along the fault zones. Here's a piece that I think you can probably see slicks on if I get it in the right light. Shows the movement of the fault. And so in this case, let's see if we can get one kind of in situ. It might be hard to see on the camera, but I can see in the light that the slicken sides are going this way. So this is like a strike slip movement. This would be up and down. This is strike slip. And that tells me the last movement. This thing could have gone up and down for a mile, and then the last couple of slips could have gone strike slip. So I can't tell you that this went 500 feet strike slip this way, but that's the last movement. And it may have not moved hardly at all. We can't really tell. But it's these zones that would be the conduit for bringing the minerals up into the host rock. And if the chemistry's right and the temperature's right and the fluid houses the metals, this is where they deposit. All kinds of treasures though. An old flat shovel. Delco something. Electric. Automotive electric. Something. I wonder what that says. Made in USA. I can make that out. It's an old electric motor, I guess. Oh, there's the other piece of it. What else we got? Big eyes. Those are heavy. More electrical stuff. I don't know what that is. So that way's back to the portal. You can probably even see some light. There's some light. So I think this is the first shear zone. The raise is right there. We'll climb up that in a minute. But this is the first shear zone. I wanted to take a look back here because they did some work moving this way.
couple of stoles. Wonder if those are for a slusher bucket. Stoles, timber down on the ground. Huh. Did a little whoop-de here. Kind of curved around. Here's the fault they were following, or the metallized zone. Cool stalactites. They're hard. Look at them all. Probably from that silicified marble host. But I don't see any, no stope, no ore, no nothing here. Well, they had an aerial tram in here. So I don't know if they were just sending ore down from their crosscuts, or if once we climb up this stope here, we'll actually be able to see some pretty good mineralization. It sounds like most of the mineralization was out in the surface. So we'll go figure that out later. But right now, let me climb up this stope that goes up about 45, 50 degrees. Let's see what's up there. Well, there's down. So we came up that little raise, brought you up into the stope. There's some stoles, timbers. Looks like they drifted off that way a little bit. And it looks like they drifted up that way a little bit, but I would not call this a stope, really. I don't see anything really exciting as far as mineralization either. This is the end of that, what I thought was the stope. I was concerned when I saw this wood and stuff down here. I didn't like that. But I got up here and they did do a little bit of stoping up in there. I have no idea how you get a human up there. It looks horrible. I don't even like standing here. But man, oh man, it's ravelly, nasty ground. I don't know. Maybe there's some rusty looking stuff up there. But God, how do you convince a guy to climb up in there and do the work? And the other thing is, that's perpendicular to the trace of the fault, more or less. Oh, look at those hanging there. Oh God, look at that one hanging there. Oh, look at those hanging there. I don't like anything I see here. Oh God, they went over. What the heck? They went over there? How do you get over there? Oh, goodness gracious. Let's get out of here. I don't like this at all. What about over here? This is that other section. Yeah, see, that doesn't interconnect. Do I dare go over there? I don't know if I want to go over there. All right, I'll go over there. All right, let's see if we can get up here without killing ourselves. Huh. Well, there's a little something over there. It looks pretty good, actually. Like, this stuff looks pretty good. Best looking stuff. God, how did they get back up in there? That is the craziest little rat hole. I wonder if that connects with the other adit somehow.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm not going to be doing any banging on these walls. Let's get out of here. I don't see anything. I don't see anything worth mining up here. They did a heck of a lot of work. Not a lot of gold. I gotta get out of here. Okay. Oh yeah. We're back. Made it out of the Silvertip alive. Well, the portal we just went in was over there. And right up here behind me, right up in there is the southernmost portal, but it's caved. We're not going to be able to get in there. So let's go try and find some outcrops where we can see some real gold. I came up over the top. I'm on the west side of the creek now. I would not recommend going that way. It's steep and nasty. And I'm coming down through this forest, kind of down a ridge. And I came across this thing I want to show you. It might not look like much, but it's a stack of rocks. And it looks like somebody stacked those there. Also in the middle, there's some burned wood, a little leveled area. It looks like somebody made a little foundation there of stacked rocks. Oh, dead giveaway. Look at this. A shovel. The handle's long gone. That's been here a long time. I think there was a little cabin site here. Let me look around a little bit more. But this is probably turn of the last century, back in the 1900s, 19 teens maybe. Oh, there's some more stuff down there. Oh, this is cool, guys. Check this out. There's a big flat spot. Somebody worked flattening out, and then we're finding old artifacts. Look at this. An old crosscut saw, a piece of rail iron, old cast part, probably to a stove. Oh yeah, see, here's the stove foot. Manufactured by Pioneer Stove Company. That's a pretty piece there. Another leg. Stove leg. God, somebody pulled that all the way up here. What does this look like? Oh, it's the door. The door of an old cast stove. Look at that. Is that called the fleur de lis? Isn't that the French symbol? Who's from France? Isn't that a French thing? That's pretty cool. And they worked on a flat spot right here, all the way back through those trees. It's probably 15 or 20 feet across by 50 feet long. I don't know if there was a whole cabin here. It looks like there's a tree down here that they may have used as part of the foundation. But now the question is, what were they doing? There must be some workings pretty close here. Well, I looked all around about half an hour, couldn't find anything. No trails, no nothing. Just this little cabin site and the one up above it that I'm standing in. So I'll dive over the hill, see if we can find some outcrops and get some samples. So I've grappled with this in the past. There's some cool stuff here. That crosscut saw, those legs in that stove. The coolest thing is that stove front there, that door with the cast fleur-de-lis or whatever it is in there. I don't know if I should take it. It's gonna rot away here in the forest, but it's kind of a historical thing as well. There's no probability of anybody finding this again. And so I don't really know what to do. I'm gonna leave it for now. I know where it is, but what do you guys think? Leave me a comment. Should I take this stuff back and put it in the museum, or should I leave it in place for somebody in 100 years to maybe find it again? I'm going down the hill. I'm just below the cabin. I'm on what I think, if I really use my imagination, could be a trail, an old trail. And the truth of the matter is I could walk within 50 feet of a portal and not know. Between the elevation relief, I mean, look, you know, over there, it just kind of cliffs out over the edge. Between the foliage, the steepness, the duff, it's really, really hard to find anything here. Well, the farther down I go, it's getting steeper, not flatter. See if I can get you oriented. There's about level. So it's going way down steep. And then if you look down, it just goes way down fast. Hope I don't get cliffed out here. How in the world did those guys get all that stuff up there? I can barely go down this, and they had to take all that stuff up, way up. Tough as nails. I mean, you look out there 50 feet and you see the tops of trees that are 150 feet tall. My fear has almost come true. I've got cliffs all over there, a little tiny chute right down here. I'm gonna shimmy down, and then cliffs all over there. So hopefully once I get down this little chute, we won't have as steep a terrain to deal with. Well, I just made it down my chute of doom there, and I stumbled across this rock. It was all rusty. Let's see if I can perch on the side of this mountain here. But look what you're finding inside. Pyrite cubes, mineralization. That looks like what we saw in the fault underground. And if you look down, there's a little fin of it right there. It might run down this chute. So now we're starting to see outcrops of mineralized rocks. And it's in that, oh, mosquitoes. Look at how big they are. They're huge. They're in that silicious, calcified, marble looking stuff, and that's where our mineralization is. So let's go find more of that. I seem to find one every time I go out in the woods. Balloon. Big silver balloon. We'll pack him out of here. Well, this is interesting. Look here. It's a little ladder. It's not a ladder, I guess. It's something that they put nails in, cross pieces. Somebody was going around this corner on a little trail. There's the trail right there. I wonder where it goes. I guess we follow it, huh? It's going back up. I don't want to go up. Well, the trail led me out into the avalanche chute here. I'm way down from the mine. And against my better judgment, I'm going to go along here, see if I can find the creek bed, and see if I can find any float. Because I didn't have much luck finding the source on the way down the mountain. I made it into the creek bed. I'm down here whacking on my rocks, and there's some really nice pyrite in some of these. So I'm finding this kind of quartzy, I don't know, brownish looking rusty stuff, and it's got quite a bit of mineralization in them. I can feel the weight. It's heavy. There's another piece of this green stuff. Here's a little bit better close-up view of it. Just pyrite pyrrhotite speckled through there. This will be a good one to take home and slab. I want to cut some of these and see what I can see in them. But they're not terribly exciting looking on the outside, are they? But once you get inside, they're pretty good. Here's another piece I knocked off. That looks like ore to me. There's some of that real pretty green stuff. That's some really good looking listwanite right there. I'm gonna have to pack him home and slab him up too. I found some really good gold in this. I've slabbed this and then looked at it with the microscope, and almost little bands of gold in some of these. It's rare, obviously, but some of these have some really high grade gold in them. Let's talk about bears. There's a big pile of bear crap. I haven't seen any today, but they're around. That's my first sign. So I don't have a gun, don't have bear spray. I got a hammer and a rock though. Maybe that'll scare them off. Uh-oh, I'm on their trail. Go away, bears. Here I come. Well, I'm back on the road. I'm tired. I'm hungry. The Silvertip is up there. I'm gonna get these rocks back home. We'll slab them up and see what we can find. We're in the rock shop. Let's get a few of these guys chucked up in here, get these slabbed up and see what they look like. All right, let's have a look here. We'll get it wiped off a little bit, but that is a pretty cool looking specimen there. Here's a look at what we cut. We got our listwanite here. Really beautiful. Green, gray, white streaks in there. I got a couple little listwanite stand-ups. That one's got some really cool texture to it. And then this piece has a couple of big pieces of pyrrhotite in it, I believe. Sulfide. And then I had this piece here that I grabbed on the way down. I don't think I got it on camera. I thought when I broke a fresh surface with my hammer that the little black things were sulfides, but now that it's cut, I don't know if they are or not. We'll have to take a look at the microscope. But I've got a little stand up of him, another little slab, and then this one here is so small I'm not going to worry about cutting it, but I think this is probably the ore from the Silvertip those guys were going after. This is the float full of sulfides. Now I'm going to use this little phone microscope to take a look at some of our slabs. And if you guys are interested in this thing, I got a link to it in the description below. First up is one of our listwanite stand-ups here. Here's a little interesting section in this stand-up. There's some sulfides right along this little band, and I don't know if that little yellow stuff is gold in there or not. But definitely some good mineralization. There's a large piece of sulfide there. Now let's take a look at this piece here with all these little black flecks in it. Yep, and sure enough, all those little black flecks in this one are little sulfide crystals. It appears to be pyrrhotite. But this guy is just loaded with sulfides. There's a real nice section of sulfides there. And maybe a little piece of gold right in the middle. Maybe just under the surface. There's a piece of gold right there. Right in the center of that thing is a little piece of gold. It's small, but it's in there. Yep, sure enough. I'm going to throw some of these pieces up on eBay if you guys are interested in getting a piece of the Silvertip history. But thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next video.